Oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal.
US President Donald Trump has appeared to suggest Ukraine was to blame for Russia's invasion in 2022 and argued Kyiv could have stopped the war with negotiation. He made those remarks Tuesday in Mar-a-Lago, the same day of US-Russian talks in Saudi Arabia to end the war in Ukraine, talks where Ukraine was not present.
You know why I want? Because I don't want all these people killed anymore. I'm looking at people that are being killed, and they're Russian and Ukrainian people, but they're people. Doesn't matter where they're from on the whole planet. And I think I have the power to end this war. And I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down. But they chose not to do it that way. And President Biden, in all fairness, he doesn't have a clue. What he was so bad for this. He was so bad, so pathetic. It's so sad. But with all of that being said, look, it is what it is. When I left, there was no chance that this could have happened. But it happened because we had incompetent leadership at many different levels. But when you see what's taken place in Ukraine with millions of people killed, including the soldiers, millions of people killed, a big percentage of their cities knocked down to the ground. I don't know how anybody even lives there. You know, when they say they took a poll and Zelensky's at 4%, who's living there? You know, I mean, it's hard to believe that people live there. Their cities are being knocked down. And this is something that would have never happened. And by the way, for 4 years, it didn't happen. It was never going to happen.
Ukraine was invaded by Russia in a full-scale assault in February 2022 in what's become the deadliest conflict in Europe since World War II. On Tuesday, Trump took swipes at Kyiv, saying they should have held talks much earlier.
A half-baked negotiator could have settled this years ago without the loss of much land, very little land, without the loss of any lives, and without the loss of cities that are just laying on their side.
As for the talks, Trump said he was more confident after them and that he may meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin before the end of the month. He also said Ukraine should hold elections to potentially replace President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, whose term was supposed to end last year. Polls are banned under martial law in Ukraine, which has been in effect since Russia's invasion. Zelenskyy postponed his own trip to Saudi Arabia set for this week. Sources say the decision was made to avoid giving legitimacy to the US-Russia talks. The official stance in Kyiv is that talks on how to end the war should not be held behind Ukraine's back. The Tuesday meeting in Saudi Arabia saw Russia harden its demands, saying NATO should abandon its 2008 promise to grant Ukraine membership at a future unspecified date. Moscow also said it would not accept any NATO troop presence in Ukraine. Leaders in Ukraine and Europe are worried Trump and Putin could cut a quick deal that rewards Moscow for its invasion. European politicians have accused Trump of handing out concessions to Russia for free even before talks began, since he's ruled out Ukraine's NATO membership and said it was an illusion Kyiv could win back territory now under Russian control. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Tuesday the European Union needed to be involved in peace talks at some point, and any solution must be acceptable to all parties.